Hello, everyone. Thank you for making time today to join our Resideo webinar session, where we are going to talk about the Resideo Pro App and the T6 Pro Smart Thermostat. My name is Fatima Guevara, and I am part of the Resideo training team. And on behalf of all of us, I'd like to welcome you to our training session today. Before we get started, I would like to cover a few items. Details and information on our upcoming webinar sessions are posted on our website at resideo.com/webinars. And if you search under the Discipline tab by the title HVAC or Plumbing on the left-hand side of the search bar, you can find the upcoming webinar sessions. So don't forget to register. You can also find the recorded webinar sessions on this same website by selecting On Demand on the right-hand side of these filters as well. And then for those contractors joining us for today's live session, and you're interested in earning one NAID continuing education credit, there are a few things to note. If you provided your NAID ID on your registration form for this webinar, we will submit those details to NAID, and therefore no additional information is needed from you at this time. However, if you did not provide us with your NAID ID on the registration form and you would like to receive credit for attending our live session, then please send us an email with your first name, last name, NAID ID number, and the date of the session you attended to academy@resideo.com. This information is submitted to NAID 1 week following the close of each live session. Any requests sent outside of 1 week from this live training cannot be processed. As a reminder, we can only process requests for NAID credits when you attend the live webinar sessions. If you would like more information about the NAID program, please visit their website at www.naidx.org. And then one quick note before we begin the technical presentation, all attendees are muted. However, if at any point during the technical presentation you would like to ask a question, please go ahead and use the Q&A function that is found in your Zoom webinar controls, so we can address it at the end of today's session. So now we're going to turn over the presentation to Isaac, who is part of our training team. Isaac has been part of the Resideo Honeywell home for almost 8 years. During this time, he has held multiple customer service positions, assisting professional installers and homeowners. And he also develops training for the Resideo Pro technical support team. So with that being said, thank you so much, Isaac, for being with us today. Take it away. I'm sorry, Isaac, I don't think you're off mute.
Oh, I apologize. So yeah, my name is Isaac. Thank you, Fatima, for starting off the webinar for us today. I'm really excited to talk about our T6 Wi-Fi smart thermostat and how it's used with the Resideo Pro app. So let's get right into it. We'll just dive right in. So today we're going to talk about our T6 Pro smart thermostat, kind of just go over a brief overview of what that thermostat is, kind of the benefits and features, and then we'll shift gears, talk about the Resideo Pro app. We'll talk about how we can use the T6 Pro Smart Thermostat with our Resideo Pro app and how that creates an easy handoff to our homeowners after the installation. At the end of the presentation, we'll have time for a question and answer. So like Fatima mentioned there, if you have questions, feel free to place them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. So let's get started here. Before we start talking about T6, I kind of want to provide a foreground of kind of the smart thermostat landscape here. So if we take a look at 2019, smart thermostat sales globally were almost at $2 billion. And then we look ahead to 2027, and they're expected to almost quadruple to almost 11.5 billion. So we know this because of the rapid adoption of smart home infrastructure in residential and commercial sectors. We know there's a huge increase of the use of IoT and AI technology, which is really pushing the use of smart home products like Wi-Fi thermostats. So given this information, we can expect more Wi-Fi thermostat installations. And this will kind of connect with our Resideo Pro app because this is something the Resideo Pro app will assist you with. So not only are we going to help with the installations there using the Resideo Pro app, we also know that our customers are going to be asking us questions about Wi-Fi thermostats before the installation. So they might ask questions about how they integrate with their home and their lifestyle. One huge solution that we see here is convenience and accessibility. So creating the ease of access to adjust a thermostat remotely within or outside the home. And convenience goes beyond touch. We can enable voice commands using smart home partners. So it might be a good conversation starter when we're speccing a job site or providing an estimate. Ask your customer about what type of smart home products they currently use. Most smart home partners are compatible with our products, such as the T6 Smart. And this is something that can really add an extra incentive to installing these types of thermostats. Another huge solution that we get from connected solutions using thermostats is awareness. So we can be aware and get alerts of high and low indoor temperature and humidity conditions within the home. And awareness stretches past just temperature and humidity alerts. We can also get reminders for routine maintenance to make sure our system is running efficiently. And then lastly, but not least, sustainability. This is a huge conversation that we're having with a lot of our customers. How can they save energy and save money? So we can use features like geofencing, demand response, which will give it a capability and increase awareness and access to the thermostat to conserve energy. So demand response is great. You know, in addition to the energy savings, homeowners might qualify for rebates and annual credits when they enroll in some of their utility companies' programs. So, you know, it's an extra bonus there. A lot of providers already provide rebates for new heating and cooling systems. We can also get a rebate for the thermostat given the utility partner that we're working with. So another great incentive there. Well, let's talk T6 Pro Smart. Now that we talked about kind of the benefits and the landscape of the smart home thermostat products there. So T6 Pro Smart, something that you might be familiar with already. The T6 was released a few years ago. It's been available for some time, but it still holds up today as one of the best Wi-Fi thermostats out there. It has a familiar interface which features a large touchscreen display. It has geofencing, time-based scheduling, or can also be non-programmable for those that may not use a schedule. Smart home integration is previously mentioned there. So asking the customers about Amazon Alexa or Google Home or maybe Apple HomeKit. The T6 will interact and integrate with those partners and their ecosystems. The T6 Pro Smart is Energy Star certified and has a 5-year warranty as well. So we'll back it up. What about the installation benefits here? You can set up using the Thermostat Resideo Pro app or the Resideo app, which homeowners use. So we really have those options there, however we're installing it. We have optional wired indoor and outdoor sensor compatibility. We have optional ventilation control for projects that need to meet that ASHRAE standard. And this is something that, a lot of the smart thermostats out there are just catching up to. We see in new construction that the ventilation control is required. And, instead of having to have 2 separate controls, making that an all-in-one control to control the HVAC system, heating and cooling, and ventilation at one device really makes it easy for customers to keep their eye on it and have that control over the system. So that's a huge selling point there. And then lastly, it uses the UWP mounting system, which is standard across all of our T-Series thermostats. The universal wall plate really makes it easy to change thermostats within our T-Series family and upgrade or switch from connected to non-connected or vice versa. Now, if we take a look at the T6 Pro Smart, we have 2 different models. And you can kind of tell by the nomenclature the amount of stages that it may handle there. So like if you look at 6220, we know that's a 2 heat, 1 cool heat pump, 2 heat, 2 cool conventional. 6320 is going to give us a 3 heat, 2 cool heat pump, 2 heat, 2 cool conventional. So that 3 there kind of indicates extra stage for that heat pump system. Our 6320 WF, like I said, it can be used for heat pump systems or conventional systems, as well as our 6220. But our 6320 is going to add a couple extra features there. So we get that optional ventilation controls, and we also get the optional dual fuel for our heat pump applications with gas or oil backup. Both of these thermostats can control the auxiliary heat if we are using a heat pump with backup using outdoor sensors that are wired, or can use the Wi-Fi connection to receive the local weather conditions based on the customer's zip code that they enter in. So we have those two options there. If, let's say we can't run wire, still got you covered. You can still use the Wi-Fi connection to get that local weather information to provide those lockouts if needed. And just to expand on ventilation there a little bit more, we can control this using it with the ERV, HRV, or fresh air damper. So we have a couple different options there as well. Lastly, our T6 6220 and 6320 are both compatible with our 2.4 gigahertz routers. And they just connect to like a home, a standard home wireless router, but they work within that 2.4 gigahertz range. Usually not a problem for most customers. And while I can tell you here, the thermostat uses a universal wall plate, which is included in the thermostat. It comes with a medium cover plate, which is also included. But if you need a larger cover plate, let's say to cover a larger surface area there or footprint, those are orderable as well as our wired outdoor sensor and wired indoor sensor. And again, those wired sensors for the outdoor is just used for lockouts and whatnot there and ventilation control. Our wired indoor sensor can be used, let's say the thermostat is in a tough spot where maybe it's near an appliance that's giving a lot of heat, producing a lot of external heat, or let's say it's exposed to the light. We get solar gains in that area of the home, and the thermostat happens to be in that path. We can use a wired indoor sensor to sense from a remote location, or we can use that wired indoor sensor to average the thermostat and the sensor location together to get a more consistent temperature reading throughout the home. So that's just a little bit of the specs and kind of the features and benefits. T6 installation is pretty simple. As for all Wi-Fi thermostats, there's typically 3 setup steps: the thermostat setup, configuring it for its particular application, the Wi-Fi connection, and the registration. Once this process is complete, the homeowner will have access within the Resideo app. And that's available on iOS and Android. The current iOS version is 6.0. Android, it might just vary by device, but this is our customer-facing app. It has features like runtime, reminders, alerts, and you can have multiple users. So let's say we have a large family, or we want to incorporate other people and that have control with our thermostat into the app there. We can easily add users within the app. Geofencing, time-based scheduling, or manual control. So like this is for pretty much all of our thermostats that use the Resideo app. They have these different types of scheduling options. So you get the flexibility there. You can also access multiple locations and devices in the one app. So let's say they have multiple homes, or they have like a zone system where they have multiple thermostats in the home. You can easily manage all those devices easily in that one app. The app controls and thermostat controls are pretty intuitive. If we take a look at the left there, these are the thermostat controls. We'll see that the larger number is the indoor temperature and the smaller number is the desired temperature. Same kind of goes for the app as well. We'll have access to our mode to change between heat, cool, off, auto if enabled, and emergency heat if we're using a heat pump with backup heat. Our menu button used to program the schedule and see other customizable options. And a lot of those options are already also available in the app. So whichever is more convenient for yourself or the customer, we can configure some of those options within the app itself. Also our fan, so we can set that to auto, on, or circulate. So if we just want the fan to run about 33% of the time when the system's not heating or cooling, we can have that fan come on intermittently to help circulate the air throughout the home. If we take a look at the right, which is our app control, again, pretty simple interface here, all kind of the same buttons, as well as we'll have an easy schedule button here, which we can switch between geofencing, time-based scheduling, or we can just hit that button and turn off the schedule completely. So there's not, you don't have to do a huge workaround or anything like that. We can turn off the schedule on the thermostat itself or through the app. And then at the top right there, the cog wheel, that will access the thermostat menu to set alerts and other access other features as well. So if we kind of want to go beyond the basic controls, we also have, our smart home partners, which we talked a little bit about previously. The T6 Pro Smart is compatible with Apple HomeKit, Cortana, Alexa, Google, and IFTTT. You can find a complete list at resideo.com/smart-home-partners. But just know that this kind of, we're definitely expanding on the functionality of our products by integrating with these partners to give your customers more access to features and to set easy automations. So they can group together products like lights, locks, garage door openers, and other devices with the smart thermostat to automate the home seamlessly. One feature I really like is geofencing. My schedule is never the same as someone who travels a lot, and I do a lot of training, in and out of the house. So always on the go. And this is great for whether you're, just by yourself or you have multiple users, we got you covered there. So if you have multiple users, that's not a problem. As long as each user has access to a phone, it will take the phone's location. And when the last person leaves the radius or that circle that we kind of see here on the right, it will change the temperature on the thermostat to the away set point. When the first person arrives within that bubble, it will change it to the home set point to provide a comfortable temperature by the time the customer returns home. Also have precise location accuracy. And we know that, our customers generally take their smart home phones, wherever they go. So it really adapts, as soon as they cross that geofence and as soon as all the users are outside of that bubble, it knows to say, hey, let's start saving some energy here and let's use our away set points. So definitely a really great feature that you don't have to think about once it's set up. So it's pretty cool. And if you need to adjust the radius, we can easily do that in the app and adjust that at any time to make it either larger or smaller. Next, let's take a look at smart alerts. So smart alerts will allow the customer to be aware of the changing indoor conditions such as humidity and temperature. You can see here, once we hit that menu, we can enable temperature alerts. We can also enable email notifications, which will send an email to all of the users on the account. So like I mentioned, the added users, anybody that's on that account will be notified. Push notifications are enabled by default, but if we need the email notifications, you'll just enable that there using that toggle. Next, we'll set a range. So let's say we want it to be 45 and to be above, let's say 80. You can easily set that here. We can enable humidity alerts, and kind of the same goes for that. We can enable email notifications and then set a custom range here as well. So that will allow the customer to kind of get ahead of, issues like, let's say you get a high temperature alert. It might be an indication that the air conditioner is not working properly, or maybe a low temperature alert. We know the furnace isn't running appropriately there, keeping up with the temperature. It will alert the customer that, hey, something's wrong and something needs attention. But before that happens, we can also get, reminders for filter, which will keep our system running efficiently. So filter reminders are pretty simple to set up. You'll hit the cog wheel in the top right corner. And then first we'll want to just select our thermostat here, the menu button, I'm sorry, and go to filter reminder. We'll enable that toggle there, and then we can select the duration when we want to be reminded for that filter replacement. After we put in the reminder, we'll put the date that it was last replaced, and then the app will automatically calculate the next scheduled reminder, and it will give you the date below. And that customer will see push notifications and email alerts as well for everybody that's on that account. Vacation is another great feature within the app. So this just pauses the schedule or geofencing, or, reminds you to set a lower temperature if you're using this thermostat manually for a set amount of time. So we can enable vacation settings. And what that's going to do is going to allow us to enter a date that we depart and a date we return. So the thermostat saves energy during that time, and it, again, will pause any schedule, geofencing, or change of that temperature, even if you're using non-programmable mode, to that energy efficient set point. We can set our cool temperature. We can set our heat temperature. And if we're using a T10 shown here, we can actually use selected rooms. So the T10 has our sensors there, which we can kind of adjust priority, which we want it to sense from. And we can also change fan, whether we're using a T10 or T6, and adjust that fan mode from auto to on to circulate. So now as soon as that date arrives, the thermostat will automatically change to that particular setting. Next feature I kind of want to talk about here is runtime. So runtime allows us insight into our system's heating and cooling runtime. We'll select the device, hit runtime, and that will give us this basic feature kind of reimagined. It's an intuitive feature, and we can easily see the runtime based on day, month, or year. It will graph it, showing heating in orange and cooling in blue. And we can kind of get some insight there on how long our system's been running based on the date entered. So that's pretty cool. Something that customers ask for. So, it's definitely a feature that's worth, kind of mentioning there. So they get a little bit more perspective and insight with their heating and cooling system. So now that we talked about the T6 Pro Smart and kind of the features and benefits and installation there, let's kind of shift gears and take a look at the setup and kind of a little bit of an overview of the Resideo Pro app with that smart thermostat. So the Resideo Pro app features a web portal and application there, whether you're using an iOS or Android. Creates an easy homeowner and handoff. So you can easily invite homeowners to use their smartphone app so they can jump right into the Wi-Fi setup. And this will allow them to skip the technical process and just allow, just make it easy. So all they really have to do is just enter their Wi-Fi credentials and register the device. Creates an easier install. So instead of connecting through Wi-Fi, the T6 Pro thermostat can be used with the Resideo Pro app to connect via Bluetooth to kind of remove some of those complexities around different phone types and systems, and also routers. And lastly, it'll give you a direct connection. So your business will be linked with each home in Resideo's cloud. And will automatically keep track of the devices in the homes for you. So it'll allow you to really keep in contact with your customers more seamlessly. The dashboard is pretty cool here. So we can manage our business and profile and see a lot of other resources here that are available, such as managing our company info and employee access, enrolling in pro perks. We can even request technical training with Resideo Academy. It's important to mention that before we get to the customer's home or before we enter the field there, it's important that we invite team members to the company profile. So essentially, an admin will create a company profile, and then we'll invite our technicians and installers using the invite button there. So each installer will have their own login. And when they get to the job site, they'll open the Resideo Pro app, log in using that information, and start the installation. Again, each member should be invited using the web portal before using the app. So the web portal will be primarily used by the manager or administrator in that company. The Resideo Pro app, again, this is what the technicians or installers will use here to help and assist with the installation of the thermostat. This is available on the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. It's our professional facing app. It'll allow you to configure via BLE, which is Bluetooth Low Energy, or Wi-Fi to configure, test, and view diagnostics. We can also create and access customer information from the Resideo Pro app. So kind of like an address book, we can enter our customers' information within the Pro app, which will later be used to send the invite to them after the installation is complete. Just kind of an overview of how this works here. So we have the Pro setup. So again, the admin will create the account, invite the technicians and installers. Those installers will have the app already on their mobile device. Once they get to the job site, we'll log in, connect to the thermostat via Bluetooth. It will allow us to configure the device and select the ISUs. It will allow us to test and view diagnostics. And lastly, we'll send the customer invite and then disconnect. Once that invite's sent, the customer will receive a personalized email that will say, hey, this HVAC company installed your thermostat. Here's a link to download the app if they don't already have it. Once they download the app and log in, they'll get a prompt to continue the setup and pick up where you left off. Let's take a look at that setup there. So let's say I'm logged into the app here. This is kind of what you'll see here on the far left. You'll hit the blue button to set up product, and then you'll be prompted to select T5, T6. Once you select that, you'll press Start Setup on the thermostat. If it's saying something else, it will give you information on how to reset it or to get that network name displayed. After you hit Start Setup, a network name will be displayed there. You'll hit Next. And then you'll long press that network for about 5 seconds, and that will allow the word, or letters, I should say, BLE to appear above the network name. And we'll confirm that by pressing Yes. If it doesn't appear, hit No, and we can connect to the thermostat via Wi-Fi network using kind of our legacy setup. If we do hit Yes, a security code will appear on the thermostat, and then we'll enter that code on the app. We'll connect, and then we'll get a green check mark saying it's connected. That will bring us right into the configuration where we can configure the device, and again, select each ISU function, configure it for heating and cooling stages, and all those settings there, such as cycle rate and other ISU options that control the heating and cooling system and the features of the thermostat. Once we configure, we'll see a configuration summary, and we can go back into that configuration at any time. So as long as we're connected, right now we have, say we have a Bluetooth connection to the thermostat, as long as we remain connected, we can just go into that configuration and out of it. We can modify configuration and change anything if necessary there. Right below that, we can hit diagnostics. This will bring us into the system test. We can test the heat, cool, and fan. It will also give us the indoor temperature. And if we're using a multi-stage system or IAQ, such as ventilation, we'll see those options here as well. So we can test each stage individually right on our phone. And Bluetooth connection is pretty good, so we can bring our phone with us throughout the house, and we should remain connected as long as we have a strong enough connection there. So we can go down to the equipment if needed and test that right at our fingertips, right on our smart device. Lastly, once it's configured and tested, we can send the customer invite. Let's say the customer's information is already pre-inputted into the app prior to arriving at the job site. We can select the customer's name, or if they're not already existing in our database there, we can add them as a user just by a push of a button. Hit add customer, we'll enter their name, email address, and location info, and then verify the information and send the invite. Once the invite's sent, we'll see here on the far left, the customer will receive an email from Resideo telling them that, hey, their local contracting HVAC company installed their thermostat. Click the link below to install the app, whether they're using iOS or Android. If they already have the app installed, this will prompt, the link will prompt them to open the app. And once they're in there, they'll see their location, hit add device, and a pro invitation pop-up will appear. And it will say, your pro has installed the thermostat for you. Click on the connect to complete the setup and add it to your home Wi-Fi network. So they can easily do this by just hitting connect, and that will take them to the next process to enter their Wi-Fi credentials and register it to their account. So they can skip all the configuration and testing and get right into that setup and get connected within a few minutes there. Another added bonus here, when you install using the Resideo Pro app, it'll give the customer an added menu option, which will show the company information, such as the company name, contact, phone number, physical address, and email address. So it'll give them that direct connection, your customer, right to you. So they know who to call if they have any issues with their heating or cooling system, or they need, some maintenance performed or whatnot there. The information is easily accessible in the app for all users. If you need more resources, we're certainly here for you. We have a lot of technical literature and other product literature available at customer.resideo.com. You can also go to resideo.com/pro to view our FAQs, knowledge articles, and other resources as well. And if you need further support, we have live technical phone support available to our professionals Monday through Friday, which can help you with any questions when you're on the job site or getting ready to do an install or have a question about really any of our products. So with that being said, we'll open up for Q&A. So if anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to answer those now.
Thank you, Isaac. So now we will take some time for questions. If you have any questions on the products or accessories that were reviewed today, we will give you around a minute so you can type in your questions. Remember that you can do this by using the Q&A feature that is found in your Zoom controls.
So it looks like we have one question here. What model T-stats do averaging with sensors? I got our product specialist here, Duncan, on the call as well. Duncan, do you want to answer this one?
Thanks, Isaac. Yes, so it really depends on what you're looking for. In general, anything from the 6000, 8000 series, so the Focus Pro, Vision Pros, the T9, T10, T6 can read an indoor sensor and either prioritize the sensor or average it. That has to be done from the setup in the ISU, but they as opposed to something like the T9 or T10, which is easier to do from just the interface within the app. So T6 is a good one for using indoor averaging, or excuse me, indoor sensor averaging.
Great, thanks, Duncan. And then looks like we have another question here. I put it into the chat here. what is the Resideo Pro website address. So I shared it there. It's pro.resideo.com. And that will kind of bring you to the landing page there, and you can either create an account or log in if you have an existing account. It'll also give you some more resources like a sell sheet and links to install the Resideo Pro app on Android and iOS.
That one, just in case you forget the link or anything, is also accessible from resideo.com. There's a tab at the top that says for professionals. So that'll take you to Resideo Pro, and then you can sign up and check out the resources there. Again, as Isaac mentioned, there's sell sheets. Our learning management system is there for online trainings. If you can't make it to the webinars and things like that as well. So a lot of good content that's been put up there.
Thanks, Duncan. We also have another question here. Are there any differences between residential and commercial stats? For example, T9 versus T10 or TH versus RTH? Duncan, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Thanks, Isaac. Historically, what we've viewed as residential thermostats don't cover some of the more advanced features such as droop or finishing with higher heating or cooling stages, some of those more advanced features that would tend to throw off the average DIYer. In general, you can say that trade thermostats or professional install thermostats, trade models, will handle sensors, dual fuel applications, and IAQ, so heat, humidifiers, dehumidifiers, and ventilators. There are a couple of exceptions to that in the retail line, but that's kind of the standard that we have here at Resideo, continued from Honeywell. So retail thermostats, basic temperature control, a few bells and whistles, and then you move into trade where you get the real whole home control with IAQ, ventilation, humidification, that kind of thing, and dual fuel for those more advanced applications.
Yeah, no, it's great information there. Yeah, like Duncan said there, you know, it really depends, you know, what type of application we're working with there, but chances are we have a thermostat for that application, whether we need ventilation or more commercial controls and settings, such as, you know, scheduling options like occupied or unoccupied. You know, it really just depends what you're looking for, but we definitely have those options there for you. Great questions. We'll give it a few more minutes here just in case anybody has any last questions, but hopefully this was, you know, beneficial here to talk a little bit about the Resideo Pro app, and this is something that will definitely continue to develop. Right now, you know, we have the option for T6 Pro Smart. You know, hopefully in the future we'll have more offerings there that will work and interface with this app as well. But you know, there's a lot of great things you can do with it there, and you know, hopefully this will make the installs easier for our T6 Pro Smarts as well.
Isaac, I'll go ahead and just paste the link for the T6 Pro manual into the chat as well. It's got a great explanation for each of the features there. It's one of the things that we've added to our manuals over the years of not just, you know, what selection would you like? What do you want to set your droop to, or your adaptive recovery, or anything like that? It actually has some instances and some scenarios within those settings to better explain the features. So I'll add that in now.
Perfect. Thanks, Duncan.
Very well. It doesn't seem that we have any other questions. Thank you, Isaac and Duncan, for answering those questions and providing another great training today. If you think of a question after the close of this training, you can reach out to your local Resideo sales rep, or you can send an email to academy@resideo.com, and we will make sure to get your questions answered. Training is something we are very passionate about at Resideo, and we want to make sure you have access to our online learning training catalog by visiting the training page on our Resideo Pro website. The first time you access the online training catalog, you will be asked to create an account, and then going forward, you will log in into your training account to access the trainings. We have over 20 online learning modules available, including several modules on our humidification portfolio, the T10 thermostat, and the Prestige IQ thermostat. So if you find yourself in a couple of weeks needing a refresh on anything that Isaac covered, or if you're looking for additional information, just know that we got this online learning modules for you. Also, if you are a Resideo Perks member, you will receive training credit when you enroll and take this online training as well. So if you are interested in on our online training catalog, don't forget to sign up for the Resideo portal account to access these trainings. To find out more information about our upcoming webinar sessions, please visit resideo.com/webinars. And if you search by the title HVAC or plumbing, you will find the details for our upcoming sessions. Additionally, we record each of these sessions, and you can find those recordings on this same website by selecting On Demand on the right-hand side of the filters. And then one last reminder for those contractors who do not include your NATE ID on the registration form and you would like to receive credit for today's session, please send an email with your first name, last name, your NATE ID number, and the date of the session you attended to academy@resideo.com. And once our training session ends, you will receive a survey via email regarding our webinar session. Please take a few minutes to provide us with your feedback on today's session. We use your feedback to help us create future trainings, so your feedback is important. And finally, you will receive an email from us in a few days with some follow-up information on the products we reviewed today, as well as the link to the website for information on our future webinars. Make sure to join us on Tuesday, July 12th at 2 p.m. Central for our non-connected thermostats webinar. Thank you all for joining today's Resideo webinar session. Have a great day, everyone.